Welcome back to the English Daily Podcast. I'm Anna, and today we're talking about culture and everyday communication. Have you ever traveled to another country and noticed that people use the same words, but communicate in a completely different way?
I'm Jake, and yes, I have. In one country, people spoke very directly. They said exactly what they thought. In another country, people used softer expressions and expected you to understand the meaning between the lines. At first, I thought one group was unfriendly and the other group was unclear. Later, I learned that culture was influencing communication.
That's our main idea today. Culture shapes how we greet people, use time, show respect, express disagreement, and even use silence. Understanding these differences can help us avoid misunderstandings and become more confident English speakers. Let's begin with an important question. What do we mean by culture?
Culture is the shared way of life of a group of people. It can include traditions, food, music, history, values, and social habits. But culture is not only something we see in museums or festivals. It also appears in small daily choices, such as how close we stand to someone, how long we look at them, or whether we interrupt during a conversation.
Exactly. A useful vocabulary word here is custom. A custom is a traditional or usual way of behaving. For example, shaking hands may be a custom in one place, while bowing may be a custom in another. We can also say social norm. A social norm is an unwritten rule about what is considered normal or polite.
And those unwritten rules can be surprisingly different. Let's talk about greetings. In some cultures, a quick handshake is enough. In others, people greet friends with a hug, a kiss on the cheek, or several questions about the family. If you visit a new place, it's helpful to observe first instead of assuming that your usual greeting is universal.
That is a practical tip for travelers and language learners. Watch, listen, and then participate. You can also ask a polite question, such as, how do people usually greet each other here? This question is useful because it shows curiosity rather than judgment. Notice the phrase usually greet each other. It means the common way people say hello to one another.
Another area where culture matters is directness. In English-speaking workplaces, people may say, I disagree with that idea, or, this report needs more work. In other situations, that level of directness may sound too strong. A softer alternative is, I see your point, but I'm not sure I agree, or, perhaps we could improve this section.
Let's explain the word direct. If someone is direct, they communicate their meaning clearly and without many extra words. Direct communication can save time, but it can also sound rude if we don't add a friendly tone. A useful expression is I see your point. It does not always mean that you agree. It means you understand the other person's idea before giving your own opinion.
That expression is excellent for respectful disagreement. Another one is, I'm afraid I have a different view. The words, I'm afraid, do not necessarily mean that you are scared. In this sentence, they make the disagreement sound more polite. English learners should remember that tone, facial expression, and word choice work together.
Yes. Sometimes the same sentence can sound friendly or angry depending on the speaker's voice. Compare that's interesting with a warm voice and that's interesting with a cold voice. The words are identical, but the message may be different. This is called nonverbal communication, which means communication without words.
Nonverbal communication includes gestures, posture, eye contact, facial expressions, and personal space. Personal space means the comfortable physical distance between people. If you stand too close, someone may feel uncomfortable. If you stand too far away, they may think you are distant. The right distance depends on the relationship, the situation, and the culture.
Eye contact is another interesting example. In many places, steady eye contact suggests confidence and attention. However, very strong eye contact can feel aggressive in some cultures. Avoiding eye contact may show respect in one situation, but it may suggest nervousness in another. So we should not judge a person too quickly based on one gesture.
That leads to a valuable communication habit. Interpret behavior carefully. Interpret means to decide what something means. Instead of thinking, this person is rude, try thinking, maybe this behavior has a cultural explanation. This small change gives you time to ask questions and collect more information.
Let's move to time. People often have different ideas about punctuality. Punctuality means arriving or doing something at the expected time. In some workplaces, arriving 5 minutes late is a serious problem. In other communities, schedules are more flexible, and a meeting may begin 15 minutes later than planned.
Neither approach is automatically better in every situation. The important thing is to learn the expectations. If you are meeting someone from a different background, you can say, "What time would you like to start?" or, "Should I arrive a few minutes early?" These questions prevent confusion. In a professional setting, arriving early is usually the safest choice.
We should also discuss silence. Many English learners worry when a conversation becomes quiet. They think they must fill every pause. But silence can have different meanings. Someone may be thinking, showing respect, feeling comfortable, or waiting for another person to finish speaking.
That's true. A pause can also help a speaker sound thoughtful. Instead of saying, many times, you can pause briefly and organize your idea. Useful phrases include, "Let me think about that, that's a good question," and "I need a moment to consider it." These expressions give you time while keeping the conversation natural.
Here is another practical tip: don't confuse cultural difference with language ability. If someone speaks slowly or uses an unusual expression, it does not mean they are less intelligent. They may be translating in their mind, using a regional variety of English, or following a different conversation style.
And English itself is a global language. People in Canada, India, Nigeria, Singapore, Ireland, and many other places may use English differently. Their accents, vocabulary, and communication habits can vary. The goal is not to sound exactly like one country. The goal is to communicate clearly, listen actively, and be willing to adjust.
The phrase "be willing to adjust" means being ready to change your behavior a little when the situation requires it. For example, you might speak more slowly, avoid slang, explain an abbreviation, or give someone extra time to answer. Adjusting is not losing your identity. It is showing consideration.
Let's imagine a situation. Anna, you send me a message that says, "We need to talk about your presentation." I might become nervous because that sentence sounds serious. How could you make it warmer?
I could write, "Hi Jake, your presentation had some strong ideas. Could we talk about a few ways to make it even better?" This version begins with something positive and clearly explains the purpose. It sounds less threatening.
Exactly. In English, context is very important. Context means the information surrounding a word, action, or situation. The message is easier to understand when I know why you want to talk and what the conversation will be like.
Now imagine that I am from a culture where criticism is usually indirect, and you are from a culture where feedback is direct. You might say, "Your presentation was confusing." I might feel hurt, even if your intention is to help. A more balanced version would be, "The main idea was interesting, but I had trouble following the organization. Maybe we could clarify the structure."
That is a great example of constructive feedback. Constructive means intended to help someone improve, not simply to complain. A useful pattern is positive point, specific problem, and practical suggestion. For example, your introduction was engaging. The middle section moved quickly, so perhaps you could add an example.
Listeners, you can practice this pattern in English today. Think of a movie, presentation, or conversation you recently experienced. Say one positive sentence, one clear observation, and one suggestion. This activity builds vocabulary and teaches you to express opinions respectfully.
You can also practice cultural curiosity. When you meet someone with a different background, ask open questions. An open question cannot be answered with only yes or no. Try, "What traditions are important in your family?" "How do people celebrate birthdays where you grew up?" or, "What communication style is common in your workplace?"
Be careful, though. Curiosity should be respectful. Avoid treating one person as a representative of an entire country. A person can share a nationality but have a very personal experience. You can say, "What is your experience?" instead of assuming, "What does everyone in your country do?"
That distinction is important. Culture influences us, but it does not completely control us. People are individuals. They may enjoy some traditions and reject others. They may belong to several cultures at the same time, especially if they have lived in different countries or families.
Before we finish, let's recap. First, culture appears in everyday communication, including greetings, directness, eye contact, personal space, time, and silence. Second, social norms are unwritten expectations, so observe and ask rather than assuming. Third, respectful English often uses softening phrases like "I see your point" and "perhaps we could."
Fourth, pay attention to nonverbal communication in context. A gesture or sentence can mean different things in different situations. Fifth, be willing to adjust your speed, vocabulary, tone, and expectations. Finally, remember that cultural curiosity, active listening, and constructive feedback can help you build stronger relationships.
For today's challenge, choose one communication habit from this episode. Maybe you will pause instead of using ask an open question, or practice disagreeing politely. Write 3 example sentences and say them aloud. Repetition will make the expressions easier to use in real conversations.
Thank you for listening to the English Daily Podcast. We hope this episode helps you communicate with more confidence and understanding wherever you are in the world.
If you enjoyed the episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with another English learner. Join us next time for another useful conversation. Until then, keep listening, keep practicing, and keep discovering the fascinating ways language connects cultures. Goodbye.